Hi, Susan. Welcome.
Hello, how are you?
I'm excellent. Thanks for joining us today. This is Mark Perlmutter. I'm here with Susan Hargraves. We're going to be interviewing her about Animal Hero Kids, which is a wonderful organization. I can't wait to get into it. So thank you for being one of our Vegan Hero series, where we interview people that we feel and we obviously see the work they do is impacting the world in such a great way, bringing people towards veganism or plant-based eating or compassionate living. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much. It's a changed world, and it's a changing world.
Yeah, that's very true. And let's accelerate change. So thanks for coming on our Vegan Hero series. Congratulations for being one of our designees. We're going to send you a case of our meals, of our VegReady meals, as a thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I'll look forward to getting that.
Yep. So please tell us and our viewers what you do and how you do it. And then I'm going to ask you some questions to tell us how you got, what your journey was to get to where you're doing it and how you became this person of changing the world from the point of view of helping kids be change agents. So I'd love to hear the story and the journey. Tell us about it.
Well, when I was 9 years old, I was taken into a chicken hatchery in Yorkshire, West Yorkshire, by my aunt.
And that's where you grew up, right?
I was in England, Canada, Australia, and eventually Florida.
Okay.
Which is much warmer than Canada.
Yep.
And so when I was 9, my aunt said, "You love animals so much, Susan, I'm going to take you to work with me today so you can see all the baby chicks."
Yep.
And she was the receptionist there. So she said, "Just go through that door in the back of the warehouse and you can see all the chicks hatching." So off I went, my 9-year-old self, and went into this big warehouse where there was these industrial bins and conveyor belts, and I saw all the male chicks being gassed and suffocated as soon as they were hatched. Yep. Wow. And some were still alive, crawling out from the bodies of the other dead ones. Yeah. And they didn't know what was going on. There was these like tubes from the bins that was the gas, but I didn't know that at the time. And I just saw them all piled up on top of each other in these big industrial bins.
Wow.
And I looked to the adults in the room to help the chicks, and they just continued sorting, and they didn't really pay any attention to me, and it was just business as usual.
Right.
And I thought, never again, didn't think right then that, but never again will I'll allow, or I will always want to help other children and teens not feel helpless in the face of animal abuse.
Right, exactly. So that was awareness for a 9-year-old.
Well, it was really, I wasn't thinking right then when I was 9. I was just thinking at that point, how could these people do this? Mm-hmm. Why is this normal? This is because it was something that everybody accepted, and it was just regular, just as you're sitting down eating like liver and things. I was forced to eat liver. Yeah. So
me too. Yeah.
Yeah. So fast forward, and for the last 40 years, I've been since 1980 presentations in the schools, outreach as far as free education programs. And each education programs features vegan fare, and I can do from ages preschool right up until college or university with a variety of programs.
You go all over the states and maybe other countries too, or how do you?
Yes, and actually in July I was in London and surprised an Animal Hero teen with the Animal Hero Kids Paul McCartney Young Veg Advocate Award.
Nice award. Yeah.
Yes. So I gave my first award 20 years ago, and now Seidel Clark, who is actually in the Animal Hero Kids book, the book right here.
Show us that book. That's a great shot. Hold it up a little bit more. Yeah.
I think it's upside down.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you. Yeah. Animal Hero Kids. Nice.
Yes. So his story is in this book, along with hundreds of other stories of kids who have helped animals.
Nice.
So it was 20 years ago I gave my first award at his school. I had given an assembly, and at the end of each assembly, the elementary schools get an Animal Hero Kids card, like a pledge card to take with them.
Yeah.
And he had that card in his pocket the next week, and he was in 5th grade.
Yeah.
And he saw a mourning dove that was bleeding by a bush. And his friend said, Seidel, who cares about the stupid bird? We've got to get to school. Who cares?
Yeah.
And he said to himself, if I don't help this bird, who will?
Wow.
And he looked, in spite of all his friends saying he was being dumb and, slow. And he looked at that card. He knew exactly what to do because the card outlines some things. And he got a box, put holes in the box, put the bird in the box, and then walked the box to school. And then they knew the number to call because I had been there. So I give out the numbers to local wildlife rehabs and other, emergency
That was
numbers.
20 years ago. And then you gave him an award 20 years later.
I gave him an award right then, the following week, in his class in 5th grade. And now, 20 years later, he's actually in Atlanta. He's actually a crunker dancer. I think it's called crunk. I don't know if you heard of that, but it's crazy dancing. I can't do it. But he has his own daughter now. So I have a absolute, really, I want to say, an Animal Hero Kids Hall of Fame.
And you have this cycle of generation passing on.
Yes.
Beautiful. Yeah. Really nice.
Yeah. So his child, his daughter, will hear about Animal Hero Kids and see his actual award. So.
Now, I know you have 2 awards. What's the other award you give? The Russell Simmons Award? Tell us about that.
Well, actually, what we do is we give, I've actually simplified the awards because we had so many different kinds. Now, all we're doing is giving to make it simple, the Animal Hero Kids Paul McCartney Young Veg Advocate Award.
Nice.
The Animal Hero Kids Kind to All Award. That's for anyone who is helping all species of animals. And then we have the Creative Award category. The Creative Award category is for someone who will create a song, a rap, and even an idea, a video, a piece of art that inspires compassion. And we have some beautiful winners of that category.
You have some of their work that people can view pretty easily?
Yes, actually, it's in the Animal Hero Kids book. It's actually a song. One of them is a song written by a young teen in China, who was working against the ivory trade.
You don't hear much about China and animal activism. That's wonderful.
No. So I really wanted to, feature her song. So it's called This Ache, and it is
this ache. As in pain.
This ache. Yeah.
Nice.
And it is a mother elephant speaking to the hunter as she's dying.
Makes sense. Yeah, great.
And that's the whole song. And it's a beautiful song. So at each Animal Hero Kids Awards, that song is sung.
Nice.
So yeah, it's beautiful. It's a challenge because we're really grassroots and we don't actually make any money. We give everything away. Yeah. So the book is given to every school after each presentation. The presentations are free. Of course, the awards are free, and then we even pay for the kids and their guardian to come to get the award. So then that's even more expensive than free.
Yeah. Now, here's a picture. Maybe you'll tell us about it. It's of you, and there's young vegan Evan, who's 9-year-old president of Animal Hero Kids. And then there's someone in a costume with a cow head, and then there's a bodybuilder pose. Tell us about this interesting picture. It's very nice, I found. Yes,
that's Tori Washington, who is the vegan bodybuilder.
Yep.
And then it's actually Sean Russell in the cow costume. This is pro vegans. And that was as we were doing a promo for the Animal Hero Kids vegan mac and cheese challenge to save the earth.
Nice.
Because that's something else that we do. We do challenges, get a whole bunch of, we had like 7 restaurants do vegan mac and cheese.
Nice.
And then we had kids judges, and then we had bodybuilders judges.
Now, do you have a 9-year-old president because he's unusual, or is that effective? How does that work as a nonprofit that has a 9-year-old president? Tell us about that.
Well, our first president was 7, Dominic, and I thought that
it's a new world.
Yes, and I thought, this is about kids be empowered to say what they want and not to think, oh, you're just kids. Right. So why wouldn't it be kids? So it's and we have an Animal Hero Kids president. We also have numerous co-presidents all over in Canada, Brazil, England, and in the United States, we have the most co-presidents. Oh, and you can actually see the co-presidents on our Facebook page in a whole bunch of videos that $1 Million Vegan and Animal Hero Kids collaborated.
Yep.
And
I actually watched the video interview of Vegan Evan, and he speaks quite confidently. I was very impressed. So
yes, when I met him,
and good for you.
5. When I met him, he was 5, and he was, kids are way more brilliant than adults give them credit for.
Yes.
Yeah. And my background is early childhood education, and so I know how smart 3-year-olds are. But the average adult is like really shocked at the eloquence. And they also question, is this really the kids talking, or are you telling them what to say?
Right.
And it's obvious to anyone just speaking with Evan and all of the Animal Hero Kids co-presidents that they're just speaking from their heart.
Exactly.
And then to say that someone else is telling them what to say is denigrating the power or the independence and individuality and intelligence of that child.
Right.
And we're underestimating.
And it doesn't draw out. In fact, it tamps down. So I love what you're doing. What can people do to help other Animal Hero Kids come to the surface, get involved? What can the other kids do that want to get involved? Give us some ideas on that.
Good question. I like that question.
Yeah. We call that a soft pitch.
Yeah, that's great.
Or we call it pardon the phrase, we call it a meatball pitch. Pardon the phrase.
Yes. Well, it's a Beyond Meatball from.
There you go, Beyond Meatball. Yeah. Thank you. I like that. That's good.
So actually, what you could do is go to animalherokids.org. And then you'll see something that says "Join Us," and then that has all of the volunteer guidelines and requirements. We're all volunteer.
Yep. And
there are requirements and guidelines where I want to make sure that people realize that we're all about positive education, inspiring, heartwarming, and we're all about bringing all the kids together. So there might be a child that lives in a small village in Alaska.
Yes.
That goes to the library and finds the Animal Hero Kids Voices for the Voiceless book. This happened.
Right.
And the next thing you know, her mother calls and says that her daughter wants to help sled dogs in Alaska.
Wow. Nice.
Well, yes. So now the mother and the girl has never even heard the word vegan before.
Oh my God.
So that's okay. It's okay for the little girl to call up when she's seen the book and she wants to be an animal hero.
Just being an animal hero. That's right. Perfect.
And so you wouldn't believe the number of kids that come in because they come in under our tent because they want to help dogs. They want to help cats. They want to help stop dogs being eaten.
Right.
And then they find out what's happening to all animals.
Yeah.
And they find out by reading the book, Animal Hero Kids, Voices for the Voiceless, which is available on our website, animalherokids.org.
Show us that. Show us the cover again. That's a great, very interesting cover you have. Thank you for showing that.
Yeah, this is actually the boy with the cat is at a shelter, and he's I don't know if you can see it, but he's reading to the cat that
nice.
is in the animal control.
Looks like the cat is looking at the book he's reading from, like following
yes.
along.
Yeah, I know. And so that's one of the stories in the book. So if you want to find out exactly how this picture happened, then you have to buy the book.
That's available in libraries and also order online.
Yes, we really are encouraging people to go to animalherokids.org to order, because that helps us more. It gives us a little bit more funding from the book. If they buy it from Amazon or somewhere else, it ends up being like $2 to Animal Hero Kids.
Okay.
We're also looking for sponsors for the book. If somebody wants to sponsor it in their alma mater or in their area, if they're a business and let's say they're a health food store or a vegan restaurant and they want the local area to know them, then they could sponsor books, and we would go there and give a presentation and say in the book, donated by. Okay,
I have a surprise for you. I have a group that I'm going to personally call that I've sponsored. It operates in New England. I'm sorry, New York, Long Island, and they do programs at other places. And I'm going to sponsor them to give out some of your books at their programs. What they do is a 5-week, 5-Saturday vegan living course, and it's free.
Great.
And it has a mentor and a mentee matching. So each person has someone to help them through the process. And then the mentees end up being mentors. They love it so much. So it's a wonderful self-reinforcing. And usually, often, it's a parent and a child going through together. So it's perfect,
that's great.
perfect match. So I'll put you in touch with them. And
wonderful.
And
thank you.
Would like to sponsor some books for those events. We've sponsored meals to those events before. So I have some questions for you. May I fire some questions to you so people can learn?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Animal Hero Kids. So what was it? Was there an event or a situation that started you as an activist? Because it's one thing to take your own choices. It's another thing to go public and reaching out and possibly get rejected and maybe dealing with pushback. So tell us about the journey of becoming an activist and then helping other activists become activists. And there's probably some cues or some clues you might give some people that are coming up against some of these barriers that they can, help themselves to consider keep going.
Well, when I was in grade 7 in Toronto, I learned that they were clubbing seals in Canada. It was they were trying to hide it, really. It wasn't in the regular news. And when I found that out in 7th grade, I actually organized a walkout from John Buchan.
7th grade, John walking out of school protesting.
John Buchan, like they called it junior high school. They didn't call it middle school, yeah. So John Buchan Junior High School, I organized a walkout. And then the students that followed me on the walkout, we all walked to another school and asked them to come join us. And it was like mayhem.
I'll bet.
And it was in protest for the seal clubbing.
Yeah.
And
just for people, in case they don't know, the reason that they club seals is?
Well, they try to say it's for the fur, and in fact, it's not for the fur. It's for something that they call hair seal castoreum, which is male seal testicles that Prime Minister Trudeau, before he left at that time period, actually went to China to get a market to supply hair seal castoreum. I was very active in Canada with ARC2, the Canadian Animal Rights Network, did a lot of direct action and undercover investigations in stockyards and slaughterhouses in the 80s. One of them was at Keele and St. Clair in Toronto, the stockyards. And of course, I was posing as an agricultural student, and I couldn't help any of the animals that I saw. And they didn't have any water. They were there all weekend with no water. in the stockyards after traveling and having electroshock burn marks all over their bodies. And there's one particular animal, there's always one that you can't forget when you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And that was this goat that was standing up, looking straight into my eyes, calling, just calling and calling, standing right up on his hind legs, looking straight into my face. And I thought, how can I just come back and get this goat and get him in my van? I actually went to the pig slaughterhouse where before Anita started Toronto Pig Save years ago, because it was before she did that, and took a electroshock prod right out of the hand of this guy that was electroshocking the pigs as they were coming out of the truck. And in those days, and in those times, in the early 80s and later, they never even had fences around a lot of these slaughterhouses. They don't have the security that they have today, and the big fences and the barbed wire. It was basically, you could just walk right up. It was doors you could just walk right up to, and back loading docks that you could just walk right up to.
So give us a little bit of history about the other movement leaders that you know, because you've been in it so long. When I was talking to you the other day, setting up this interview with you, you mentioned there were some people you felt should also be noticed and credited because they've done so much great work.
Yes, and so I was saying that when I was vegan in the 80s,
right.
Nobody knew what the word meant.
Exactly.
So I would be doing vegan actions and with vegan food, and I would always say, there was an old news interview where I'm saying in this interview, and this is totally vegetarian, that's completely vegetarian, that means no eggs, no milk, going through the whole thing.
Right.
And I was doing something because of the Great American Meat Out in the early 80s. And that was, of course, Alex Hershaft with
great leader.
Yeah, Farm Animal Reform Movement started the Great American Meat Out, and every year we would give out free vegan food. This was in the 80s,
right.
And people, I actually had one person say to me, how do you join this club that you're a member of? And I said, what club? And they said, well, the vegan club. And I said, what do you mean the club? And she said, well, don't you study the planet Vega? And I said, no, I don't study the planet Vega.
You watch Mork and Mindy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I have no idea what she was talking about.
Yeah.
So things have definitely changed, and I did a lot of the fur protests in Toronto, and a lot of direct action there. And really, I'm still an activist. I mean, for the bear killing here in Florida, they had I call it the Black Bear Family Massacre that they had here. Where they sold 3,200 permits to kill bears, and supposedly they were only going to go out and kill like 220 bears after having sold that many licenses at $100 a pop, and more, 300 if it was out of state. So it was a big money maker. And Animal Hero Kids. And I didn't have the kids do this because it was dangerous, but I had a big banner that said Animal Hero Kids, put down the side of bridges and off buildings where the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission were deciding how many bears to kill. They came out at lunch and they saw a great big 3-story banner that said, "Stop killing bears, animalherokids.org."
When was that, by the way?
That was 3 years ago.
Yeah. How was that received? Was there news coverage? Was there
a lot of news
coverage in the community?
A lot of news coverage, very positive. We got a lot of news coverage from that, and every single time I hung the banner, there was news coverage. So yeah, it was great, and it got the point across. It's quite simple, just no killing.
So you didn't have to pose in a magazine without any clothes and say you'd rather go naked than fur to get the kind of coverage you needed.
Oh, so yeah, so you may have heard that then. So it was in 1991 in Toronto, in Yorkville, that I organized the first We'd Rather Go Naked Than Wear Fur. Is that why you're saying that?
Yeah.
And it wasn't me that went naked. It was another woman and a man, Guy. His name was Guy. He was like 6'2" or something. And so we did it where we created a diversion where 3 people handcuffed themselves to Alan Cherry fur store railings inside the store.
Wow.
Alan Cherry was this guy that was really creepy, and he would walk around with a real live drugged lynx on a leash, and then he'd be showing all the lynx fur coats in his store, in his fur store.
Right.
And it was in Yorkville, a very trendy area, and it was a snow blizzard, and the 2 people that were inside supposedly shopping went in to a change room because they had regular clothes as well as dead furred animal skins, and they came out nude with a banner saying "Would rather go naked than wear fur," and ran through the store, past the reporters, and out to a waiting car.
And why were the reporters there? How did that happen?
The reporters were there because I sent out a news release stating that something that had never happened before was going to happen.
Good job.
And yeah, so it was the first item on CFTO News, and it was on page 2 of the Toronto Sun, and the headline was, "And now the nudes." So it worked, and it was I did a male and a female. Because I wanted it balanced and not sexist,
right.
So,
right.
But it was funny because the volunteer who was driving the car, that was his second time volunteering with ARC2, the Canadian Animal Rights Network, and I never saw him again.
Oh, okay.
He just was too shocked at these 2 nude people coming in the back seat. I told him that's what was going to happen, but that was it. It was never.
In the winter.
So,
no, that's pretty interesting.
Yes. So
now, how about I want to ask you a
yeah.
question personally, if you don't mind. Tell our viewers, they'd love to be interested. Who was your mentor? You probably had someone that was a big influence for you.
Yeah, I did. I was in grade 7 or grade 8, so like 13. And I do think that's a lot of times when you're 12 or 13, that's when you start looking around the world and realizing that what you were told is not accurate. And you have to find out things for yourself.
Right.
And I was in the mall, and I came across this table that was just like a literature table for Action Volunteers for Animals, who helped cats, Poor Tom Fund. And there was a lady sitting at the table who was quite old to me when I was in 7th grade.
Yep.
And I picked up a rodeo flyer. And I read what happens to horses in rodeos. And I started crying there at the table. Say that again?
Was it Ingrid from PETA?
No, it was Merlin Andrew from Toronto, Action Volunteers for Animals, who became my dear friend that lived to 98, actually. And when she was 70, she chained herself to the Minister of Fisheries desk against the seal clubbing.
I love that.
Yeah. She did a lot of direct action for animals. So, and so it was great. We did a lot of nonviolent civil disobedience, like chaining yourselves and handcuffing yourselves to doors. A lot of direct action, which really got a lot of great media, because that was really the
tell
point
us about why direct action, why you feel it's useful. Do you still think it's effective? There was always some controversy in our vegan community.
So obviously, as the founder of Animal Hero Kids, I'm not going to be encouraging children to chain themselves to doorways and things, because that would be dangerous for the children. And Animal Hero Kids is more of a education, kindness to all. It's an irrefutable fact that if a child has rescued an animal, no matter what species that animal is, everybody thinks it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And so it's a mainstream message that I don't want to educate the vegans. I want to educate the non-vegans. And so that's what Animal Hero Kids is about.
Excellent. So Susan, I love that you mentioned the idea that when the family observes a young child showing compassion for an animal, it inspires everyone in the family to be heartfelt and open. And I think I wanted to hear your thoughts about how do people keep their hearts open? Because it sort of requires closing your heart to then go back and eat animals when you've watched and you've felt the compassion of a young child towards an injured animal. So what thoughts do you have about that?
So when you say how do people keep their hearts open, are you referring to people who have seen horrible abuse and they're vegan, or people that don't know what's happening to animals?
Great question. I was thinking of the parents or sisters and brothers or cousins or friends of a young child that you mentioned might be saving an animal in distress. And everyone will observe that and go, oh, how beautiful, how heartfelt that young child's action is. And then they'll go back and order a meat meal an hour later. It's like, what a, cognitive dissonance there is. But how do those adults who observe that then wake up and get back in touch with their own compassion and stay in touch?
Well, that's what you have just asked me is actually why I created Animal Hero Kids.
Nice.
And that is to open people's hearts to thinking about other animals.
Yeah.
And the children are naturally, they still haven't been trained to think of all this as normal.
Right.
They find out what's happening to animals and they are shocked. They're not adults that have thought, oh, everything is fine, and they've been doing this for so many years. Right. So the children very often turn the family vegan.
I know, isn't that beautiful?
And,
I've seen that in kids.
Yes, and in all kinds of situations, we have Genesis Butler, and she got the Animal Hero Kids Paul McCartney Young Veg Advocate Award in 2014. I think she was 6 at the time. And she had actually kept asking. She asked her mom, what is this on my plate? How did it get here? What's the history? And then, kudos to the mom, decided to answer honestly and to investigate. So there are so many instances where the kids do change the family.
Yeah.
And to put things in perspective, 20 years ago, when I gave the Animal Hero Kids Awards, I would be lucky if there was one vegan child amongst 7.
Right.
We just had an Animal Hero Kids Awards, and I gave out 17 awards at the Animal Hero Kids Summit and Celebration, and every single child was vegan.
Uh-huh.
That's 17 children from all around the world, the United States, that Animal Hero Kids flew down from Vancouver, from Brooklyn, so New York.
Yep.
I think it was Staten Island, Atlanta, all over California. And this is what Animal Hero Kids, the organization, is coming into its own as more and more children and teens step on board. They see our website, animalherokids.org. They want to, they're like, finally, I can do something.
Right.
And here's kids just like me that are doing something.
Right.
It doesn't matter if they're 7 years old. It doesn't matter if they're 8 years old. There's a 9-year-old president.
Yep. They
can be effective. They can be eloquent, and they can be empowered. And when we all gathered at the summit here 2 weeks ago, the Animal Hero Kids and teens empowered each other. And there were some that just came that was their first event. And there were others that came to the event that, like Genesis, that she had been involved for years and years.
Right.
And so they all teach each other. And then the idea behind the Animal Hero Kids book is it encompasses all of those children, all of those stories, all of those steps, all of those ways to be kind to all. And this is a win-win: kindness education, kind to all species. And it's really irrefutable. And it's just about being consistent and in your compassion. And the kids know this. And that's why I would like to, I've been doing this, as you know, for 40 years. And Animal Hero Kids gives everything away. So it's not like we have very much money. We're not a rich organization when you talk about money. There's no building, there's no office, there's no salaries. That's purposely so I can go into schools and put all of the funding towards going into schools or doing events like this. So there's no overhead.
Nice.
I think we're at a point in history in the United States where we need an Animal Hero Kids Hall of Fame.
Nice.
Yes, an Animal Hero Kids Hall of Fame that school field trips travel to.
I love it. That's great.
Yes.
It could be in Washington, D.C., because all schools go to Washington, D.C. for grade.
So I'm looking for someone that might have a building or someone that might be able to help with something. I plan it to be self-sustaining within a year. For it to be a wonderful vegan wedding venue, a theater, and a vegan cooking school.
Wow.
So, and I say cooking, some people have raw, so it's funny when you're saying vegan cooking these days.
Right.
But so I think it could be a self-sustaining thing. And again, there won't be any staff. It's all volunteer. And some people hear that and they think, oh, volunteer. Oh, I don't know how professional it is. The fact is that I get people helping Animal Hero Kids that are there with their hearts, that are genuine. I'm not saying people that work for a living aren't genuine, don't get me wrong. But there is a lot of pluses having a volunteer army.
It's amazing you do this with volunteers. You're so effective. That's really amazing. Thank you.
And I'm not effective enough. I just had my 60th birthday. And I really want to achieve an Animal Hero Kids Hall of Fame. Currently, the school field trips, they go to petting zoos, they go to SeaWorld, they go to circuses, and they even go to Fairlife Farms. Fairlife Farms is specifically an education center for kids where they get used to the fact that calves are separated from their mothers as soon as they're born, because otherwise they might get hurt.
Yeah, the fact
where cows are artificially inseminated, and they could actually try it on a statue themselves.
Wow.
They can go to the birthing barn and see pigs in gestation crates. And this is all a school field trip.
Wow. What kind of education is that?
And this is all over.
Yeah.
There are farms, dairy farms, that are opening their doors and doing little mini educational tours for families on special days. And they're doing that in response to the fact that Animal Hero Kids and other kids are getting more and more well known.
Right.
And it's becoming something that they can't argue about. How can you argue with a child that doesn't want to hurt an animal?
Exactly.
There's no wedge there. No. And I really noticed how effective we're being when I became Mother Nature as a storyteller figure for the elementary school students. And we did a video about dairy and Mother Nature. It was Mother's Day, and Mother Nature was saying why Mother Nature doesn't like dairy, and all the kids were saying why they don't do dairy, why it's not good for mothers.
Yeah.
And the vitriolic response from dairy farmers.
Yeah.
They actually, we're still recovering on our Facebook page from the negative reviews. Our reviews went down. So anybody listening to this, if you can go to the Animal Hero Kids, it's called Animal Hero Kids, and then animalherokids.org, our Facebook page, where you'll see our logo, our little animal. So do a good review, because they came out in full force against us, full force. And I thought, wow, there's power here that I didn't even know that we had. Mm-hmm. And they were spitting mad, saying Mother Nature is not vegan.
Right.
Mother Nature is not vegan.
Wow.
And I didn't want to tell them, but Mother Nature is really made up, So yeah. I left it with that.
It's a marketing term. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
In parting, we're getting towards the end of our time, and I really appreciate you spending the time with us. What would you say a single recommendation or message you have for either non-vegans who are considering changing, or anyone who has a young person in their family or charge or in their sphere of atmosphere, maybe a teacher, how they might support that young person in coming to their own position, their own actions on this subject of compassion to animals and what's appropriate. What do we stand for as a human, as a person, as a member of the community?
Well, I like the way that you phrased that question, where you said, help a young person come into their own decision and that is something that Animal Hero Kids believes in strongly, is don't push a child to do something they don't want to do. Either way, as far as having children, we have to give them the facts without traumatizing children too. So that's a balancing act. Yeah. Adult humans, I have nightmares, and so many do, that have seen what really happens to animals.
Right. Exactly.
We do not want to create a tribe of traumatized children that are having nightmares at 8 years old. At the same time, though, we have to be honest with what's happening. So that's why the Animal Hero Kids book and the documentary that we're working on right now, the Animal Hero Kids documentary.
Oh yeah, tell us more. Yeah.
The Animal Hero Kids documentary is geared towards children, and we have one called Be an Animal Hero that is actually being given to 430 schools. So it's in the 430 schools. And the Be an Animal Hero is how you can be an animal hero. And it goes through companion animals and wildlife, urban wildlife, local wildlife, wildlife that's in zoos. And so now we're redoing it where it's more updated, because today there's a big difference what schools will accept. Today, they want to hear about vegan. They want to hear.
Yeah, it's great to hear.
Yes, they want to hear about factory farming. They want to hear about the link between climate change and animal-based agriculture. They want to know more. There's one particular program I give for middle school and higher called Eating as If Animals and the Earth Matter.
Okay. So is it appropriate for members of our viewing audience to reach out to you and invite you to their school? Is that something you would encourage?
Yes, excellent. Absolutely. Excellent. Now, yes, I have never, I'm just going to sound terrible, but I've never said no to an education program, because no matter how big, I really prefer doing school assemblies. Mm-hmm. If you remember when you went to school, when you do a school assembly, there are a lot, it was very important. You're in a school assembly.
The whole school in the auditorium.
Yeah. Right. So it has to be important. Yeah. And then I thrive on keeping the attention of 250 kids at a time. I love that challenge.
Are you
I do that. I do that with engaging stories, and but with elementary schools, I have costume characters that come in with me to schools.
But you also bring your animal saved companion.
Yes, Lovey, the Animal Hero Kids volunteer. Let's see if we can show Lovey. Lovey, come here, Lovey. Lovey's rescued from the pound.
Yeah.
Lovey, say hello, Lovey. There she is. So Lovey's rescued from Palm Beach County Animal Control. She was on the kill side, and she's 16.
Yeah.
And she comes with me to schools and does presentations. And she is never scared. As long as she's being held, then she knows everything's okay. Say hi, Lovey.
Very nice.
Say hi. There we are.
Lovey.
So anyway, I love doing the school assemblies.
Great.
So I can reach 250 students each presentation. So in one day, I could reach 650 to 1,000 students in one day in one school.
Nice.
So
well, we'll keep an eye out for your documentary. Anyone who's watching this who has an interest in contacting you, they can do it at your website, I'm sure.
Yes, animalherokids.org. There's a fake imitating website that's a .com. So that's why I keep saying animalherokids.org.
.org, O-R-G at the end. That's important.
Yes. And if you want to help Animal Hero Kids Hall of Fame be a reality, we need all kinds of people. We're all volunteer. We need people to help with the computer,
I think that's
the
a
website.
Great idea. I'm going to give that some thought and see if I can come up with some ideas. I have I have kind of a real estate background in the Washington, D.C. area. That's why I mentioned Washington, D.C. But I know that a lot of sixth graders come there as part of their travel. So maybe that's a natural place for it. Let's see.
Or here where I am, because I have so many contacts already in the Palm Beach County school system. Uh-huh. And I've actually, one of the teachers, well, she takes care of actually homeless students that are going to school. Mm-hmm. And there isn't anywhere. She wants to go for service learning projects where they're helping animals, and there isn't anywhere for them to go. Oh. So we've been discussing for years and years something where they could come and feel comfortable and learn and do something active to help animals. Yeah. And something that fosters their self-esteem, because that's another thing.
Yeah, it feels so good as an adult, and I'm imagining it's as wonderful for a young person who's still developing their identity and what their purpose is in life, to have something that they can take action on and feel like they made a difference to either a helpless creature or a wild animal that they may have no connection to directly. But it's so wonderful when we do see this acts of kindness from one, either a person to another species, or even a person to a person, like you said, the homeless. That's also wonderful. So I'm going to say thank you now. We could go on forever and ever, but I want to let you go back. I know you have a pet companion to attend to, and you need to get her outside. She's been inside for an hour. But thank you for spending time with us, and thank you, Lucky. And we look forward to meeting you again and getting an update on your projects, both your Animal Hero Hall of Fame as well as your wonderful documentary. That'll be exciting to see. So I'm going to say
we're always looking for volunteers for that too, if or sponsors,
has ideas or can offer any services. Again, contact at animalherokids.org. O-R-G.
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Say bye, Lovey. Bye.